to the Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, the Quiet Warrior.
All right. Well, welcome to the Quiet Warrior Show, everybody. We are live streaming this morning on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. What that means is we're letting you peek into a recording session for the Quiet Warrior Show, the international podcast. We'll be also producing this as a YouTube premiere video. I'm excited to bring to you two amazing guests. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how I met one of the guests, and then I'll introduce them. I met Ms. Vedanshi Vala when I was co-hosting another podcast. And I was dramatically enthused and surprised at what these young leaders were doing. And well, we decided, how can I help them through the work I'm doing? And here we are. We have back the executive director of Bolt Safety Society, Vedanshi Vala, and also a member of the team. And pardon me, Ravi, if I didn't get your title right, you can tell us that, Ravi Nichols. So welcome to the show, you two.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
We're so excited to be on your show.
Well, thank you. I've been excited about this too. And so I want to tell you that you have a big spot in my heart. Someone might say that a bolt of lightning struck me when I first learned about Bolt Safety Society. And in a good way, because as you know, my platform is about talking to people who are helping others who come from a place of adversity, or perhaps as leaders, we come from a place of adversity in our lifelines, or we've known somebody, and that inspired us to take the hero's journey to go and do something purposeful in the world. And so I remember, Vedanshi, I said to you, I want to help in any way I can to help you grow Bolt Safety Society. And so everybody, I'm going to tell you a little bit about these two amazing leaders, and then we'll get them talking about their story. And we'll start with Ravi Nichols. He's a grade 12 student attending Vancouver College. He discovered Bolt through a neighbor, and has been integral in making Bolt Safety Society what it is today. And so when I heard grade 12, Ravi, you took me on a journey in my head back to my graduation year, and I went, man, I wasn't doing anything near what you're doing. Ravi led the Bolt team to federally incorporate Bolt Safety Society in July 2020. And so this is somebody you can learn from, everyone. And it was key in various other projects, including safe hubs. And the future of the organization is in your hands, I apparently have heard. And Vedanshi Vala, as we've met before, Vedanshi is the co-founder, executive director of Bolt Safety Society. And I'll tell you, everybody, from spending time with her on another podcast, she has passion and great enthusiasm. Second-year student pursuing a UBC Bachelor of Science degree, a thinker and a learner, no question. She believes in creating safe communities. And they launched safe hubs, and since I've talked to them, there's been more developments. So let's shine the spotlight on you two and have some fun here. I want to start out by your backstories. Listen, we're all born, we have nothing in our heads, our neurons are empty, and maybe we have some influences around us. Maybe we have childhoods in the first 10 years where we go through things in life. How did each of you get to your point of having a passion for Bolt? Let's start with you, Ravi. Tell me about your story and how you got to here.
Yeah, I joined Bolt, I think, at the beginning of grade 10, maybe even the end of grade 9. And it was because one of my neighbors who actually met Vedanshi at like the very early stages of Bolt was really active in the organization at that time. And I was really interested in what they were doing. And I've lived a pretty comfortable life my whole life. And seeing that these youth were kind of going out there and taking advantage of their power and trying to solve this issue that I was very not aware of, which was kind of domestic violence and safety and rape, and kind of trying to solve it from a youth's perspective was really empowering for me. And especially being a man or a guy who guys aren't usually the center of attention when you're thinking about domestic violence and rape. And I thought it was kind of my duty to learn more so I can not stop being ignorant towards an issue like that. So yeah, and that's why I was super interested in becoming a part of the team. And here I am almost 3 years later, staying with it and taking on even more active leadership roles. So yeah.
Well, I'm really inspired by you. I want to just riff on that for a minute, and then we'll get you, Vedanshi, to chime in here. They say that we at some point in our lives we have this call to adventure where we go on a journey to do something meaningful. But I got to tell you that I believe from the work I do that leaders are born leaders, and to do what you're doing, to have this calling to address this issue is quite frankly inspiring to me. I want to read something off your website just to get the audience deep into this. Everybody, boltsafety.org. It's a ticker across the screen. You should check it out. Safety is like sleep. When you lack it is when you realize the need for it. Stopped counting the number of times I have looked over my shoulder because I felt unsafe. I mean, man, I just go back. I mean, there's been years in the past. I've got a few years on you too, but in the past, I went to UBC for my own education. I remember there were stories of students going into the trails there and sexual assaults and things like that. And I got to tell you, as a male, I never really looked over my shoulder too much until I started realizing that this risk is out there for predominantly, and correct me if I'm wrong, women. But there's also, I believe, a lot of men who live with a stigma who don't talk about violence and abuse. So, Ravi, let's get into your backstory. Here you are, but take us from where it began and what shaped you to do this.
Yeah, well, again, I totally agree with what you said about kind of leaders being born. Ever since I was little, I've always kind of been the guy to kind of lead the team. I've always just been someone who's kind of ready to just go for it. And I think that life of being, my parents are super supportive, and they were always super supportive of my leadership qualities. And I think that kind of just carried me through elementary school and into high school, that supportiveness. And I had a lot of really good elementary school friends. And I'd say Sophia, another one of our ambassadors and our former core team member, she was the one who introduced me to Bolt. She kind of opened my eyes to the issue, and she was telling me about Bolt safety. And I remember kind of having an aha moment there. And I was like, wow, obviously I knew about issues such as rape, and I knew about issues like climate change, but I didn't really, it's like, oh, someone else will figure that out, right? That's just their job. But then I was like, okay, well, I'm a leader. I know that. I know there are youth who are doing something about it. So what's stopping me from trying to help them out and being my own force? And I think that was kind of, I wouldn't say I have a very interesting backstory that kind of, I don't have any personal reasons for it, but that shouldn't be, having a personal reason shouldn't be the reason to do stuff like this. You should do it because you want to make the world a better place, and you want to make sure that no one else has to suffer from these issues. So I would say that's kind of my backstory to joining Bolt.
That's awesome, and that's a teaching moment. And we'll turn it to you, Vedanshi. Now, Ravi, I just want to tell you that the drive that comes for people to find their passion, from what I've discovered over a decade of meeting other leaders, is what you said. It's not always a bad backstory, but it is something that people call it a chip on their shoulder that goes back maybe in the first 10 years of life, where what you're telling us is, you care about people and you want to make a difference, and you see what's going on around you, and unlike other people, you have said, hey, wait a minute, that's not fair, that's not just, that maybe I can do something about that. So, man, you're a great example to all of the youth out there. Hey, Vedanshi, you've been very patiently waiting, and this is different for me because last time it was just you and I. But I wanted to turn it to you now and tell us, what's your why? Why, you were born, and I think you came here from another country. And how did you end up with this as your cause? What drives you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Tom. Actually, going back to something that you mentioned earlier about learning of campus stalking incidents and learning that people were getting hurt where they're supposed to be going to school or being safe, those kinds of things still happen. Recently, the UBC published an article, detailing the incident of a student and their experience with being stalked on campus, feeling like they were being followed late at night because campus is so empty right now because of the COVID pandemic. And this just goes to show that, this issue is as relevant as, when you're in school as it is when I am in school. And unfortunately will be when Ravi and our younger members end up going to university as well. So yeah, I am one of the co-founders alongside Ravi and the current executive director. And I found my passion to making the world and our community safer because, like you read from our website, those quotes are from real students who have shared their experiences and perspectives on how they do not feel safe living their daily lives. And it is, I think, so essential that each person have safety and know that they're not going to be hurt in any way, emotionally, mentally, physically, to achieve their fullest potential. And I think that without safety, we're preventing people from going out and, being the best that they can be. So that's sort of where I come from. And I'm so happy to have members on our team like Ravi in management positions that are so passionate about this issue and making our community safer.
That's fantastic. Now, I looked at the organization. I remember when I was doing my research, and correct me if I'm wrong, Vedanshi, but it's all students, right?
That's right.
The whole now, everybody, just think about that. These leaders, federally registered and not for profit, they managed to get funding, and they are students. They're busy, and yet they created this amazing organization. I said to somebody the other day on my show, you guys, that many of the people who are running the world today will not be around to see the future. And it's really the generation before us that we need to listen to. We need to give you a voice. Yesterday, I was in a boardroom doing a virtual workshop by Zoom with 20 executives of a group of companies, and the topic was time management. It actually was called Time Management Magic, and I thought about this.
I think I need to go to that seminar.
Yeah. That's what I was saying, because I was trying to connect to one of your support people about the show, and then I got back a response. Well, they're in school, and then I went, of course. How can I? So you guys are so busy. So maybe one of you tell me a little bit at some point how do you what advice to give people about managing time. But the next question I had really focuses on the what. I think you've defined the who. Who do you serve? You can add to that, but I want to talk about the what. I want the listeners and watchers to know, so what is it you do? Lifting the stigma, giving people a safety. What's your stuff?
Great question. Yeah, actually, just going back to what you said about time management, I think that it's exceptional what everyone on the Bolt safety team is able to do, given that all of us are students. And I'm so incredibly proud of each one of them for the work and effort that they put into the work that our organization does. And in terms of the what, I'll pass it over to Ravi to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. The what, that's kind of our biggest question. Often people don't really understand what our safety platform is, but we've built the organization around our platform, which is the Bolt Hub, we call it. And on there is our safety kind of map. Vedanshi can get into that more because she was the one who kind of pioneered that idea, but I can kind of talk about some other stuff we do. So we launched our Safe Hubs platform in the summer. August 31st was when our pilot project launched. And that project was aimed at kind of creating safe places around the community where people who are suffering from domestic violence, from rape, can be before they get the professional care they need. Because a lot of the times people just don't know where to go. There's so many online resources, but people are scared to go on their phones if they're around an abusive partner, and it's just hard for them. So we wanted to create spaces in the community that they can go to and just receive the help they need. And we really wanted to do this project in the summer because we noticed that ever since the COVID pandemic has started, domestic violence is up. I don't know the exact stat, but it is up for sure. I've talked with someone from Coast Mental Health, and she has told me directly that it's up and it's an issue. And that was just more fuel for us to kind of do our part. And I think Bolt, we really just like doing things that are helping the community in different ways. We're not dead set on one specific thing that we can do. We want to be an organization that can be doing all sorts of things to help about kind of what's with the times. And I know Vedanshi, she can probably help me out here about the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. So just like Ravi said, we launched our mobile platform, and initially it was just focused on safety and self-defense tips. But then we realized in speaking with experts that, for instance, from UBC's Sexual Violence Prevention and Response Office, that the aspect of telling people how to keep themselves safe is only such a small part of this entire problem. The reality is that we also need to be educating individuals on why it is important to, create a consent culture, why it is important to not blame the victims in these situations, and why it's important to be supportive. So Bolt Safety's mobile platform, really, consider it to be a centralized location to bring all these different resources and community services that are already existing in one place, so that it is like your one-stop shop for anything that you might need, available absolutely free of charge. Because a lot of times we find that accessibility is so important for these kinds of resources, and that's what we're trying to do.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So you talk about a platform. I want to bring it down to a level so the general audience can understand. A lot of times, the audience that doesn't understand technology and terminology, I have to make sure I interpret this. So when you talk about a hub or a platform, I want to get it down to, okay, I'm a victim. So I'm somebody who is a student who's being raped or harmed or whatever. I'm living in fear and I don't trust anybody. Maybe I'm possibly suicidal or whatever. And so am I going to my smartphone, or like, help me know the process? How do people engage you guys?
Yeah, I can actually pull up the platform right here.
Sure.
I actually have it.
Okay.
So essentially, this is the platform.
Yeah.
And you're seeing my admin view, but essentially that's what it looks like. And if you go on there, you can check out different tips on the hub. We have our Backyards with Bolt episodes up on there. We have safe places. So if you go on to safe hubs right there, then you can actually open up a list of resources. So for instance, if you are dealing with a mental health crisis, we do list crisis lines that you can call for support. There are counseling services. You might want to look into your legal options. You might want to immediately know, like, what happens in the event that, for instance, if I am sexually assaulted, then what does it look like when I walk into a hospital or a police station? And that's the kind of information that we're providing on the platform. It is completely free to join. You can just go to boltsafety.org/join and become a member for free.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm going to definitely, everybody, the website's ticking across the screen there, boltsafety.org, I think it is. But I also suggest, now that you've told me that even if somebody hasn't experienced this type of situation, that people go there to learn, because correct me if I'm wrong, but you two must know people who are experiencing or have gone through this. I know people who have. I got to be also open with you that on my show, and if you look at the archives, and I'm not advertising my show, you're on it, I can count easily probably almost 20 episodes I've done where people have come on my show and openly told their story about being raped, date raped, violence, their attempts at suicide. These are people who come out, and what I discovered is, by accident on my show, is I really opened up, I guess you can call it a safe hub, but it was a place where I wanted a platform where people could come and share their stories, check their ego at the door, not be afraid, and know that they were just like others and maybe like me. And so this is really cool, everybody. If you know somebody who's in the shadows, get them onto this platform. Let them explore it to get the information. The last thing I want to say to you, and maybe I'll give it back to you to comment, is in some of the work I do, I've also kind of crossed the lines learning about the opioid crisis and whatnot. And I did a TED Talk, and I met a fellow who lived on the downtown east side in an 8 square block radius for 20 years. And he got out of that, but he overdosed 5 times, should have died 5 times. Found his way into safe injection sites that are run by the federal government. And what he told me personally, and he came on my show, is he said, look, he said, I just needed a place to go where I could feel safe, where I could trust people. And I said, as soon as they opened the door for me, that there was hope, I was open to using the services and finding my way out. So let's go there. So somebody goes to your website, looks at the information, maybe they're in a home or they're in a dorm or something where they're afraid, and they're in this state where they are being abused constantly. You talk about safe. Are there places they can go through this? You said that you might have maps. Just tell me more about that.
That's right. Yeah, for sure. So on the mobile platform, there's actually an interactive map. So if you go onto the mobile platform and click on the map, you'll actually be able to pull up a map that shows where there are safe locations across Metro Vancouver. We actually have a safe hub location on the island as well, which was really neat. and we're looking to expand those. But essentially, if you are in a situation where you need to get away from home, actually, just connecting to that, when I was speaking with an expert from Chimo Community Services, she actually told me that a lot of her clients are, they're constantly being subjected to domestic abuse, and because of the COVID pandemic and everyone having to stay at home a lot more, it's becoming a lot more difficult for her clients to go out to seek the counseling support that they need to cope with whatever they're going through. So having these safe locations actually allows the survivors to escape their abuser for maybe just an hour for a day, but that is something that they absolutely need for their mental health, their physical health, and emotional well-being. So that is absolutely crucial.
We also don't want to be we don't want Bolt to be the place to go, and we don't want to solve your problems. We want to create resources, because we know that we are just youth. We don't know all the solutions, but we want to connect you with the people who can. And that's really important. And that's why Safe Hubs, we want it to be kind of an in-between place. If you're struggling from a very serious relationship or domestic violence, we don't want you to stay there. We want you to go there and then take the next steps to get somewhere where there's even more help. So that's really important to us.
Like a hospital, crisis shelter, calling a crisis support line. Just sometimes, like Tom, you mentioned, someone may not be able to do that at home while their abuser is literally 5 feet away from them. But if they get out to a nearby safe location, and they can make the necessary phone call and arrangements to get themselves to professional help.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's exactly where I was going in my mind. It took me on a journey about, okay, I'm putting myself back in the situation, and what do I do? So I connect to the platform, and then maybe I find my way to something. I have a lot of experience with mental health. I have some lived experiences, as you know, from the work I've been doing, and I've spent 10 years really at a society level in leadership like you guys. And one thing I find is that people who have crises, mental health, they can't think straight. They need help. They're paralyzed. And even the basic things of, how do I find information? They need that help. And so what you guys are doing is so amazing and important, that we got to get the word out. One of the things I do, I've signed up to be a volunteer crisis text line counselor. And it was just something, again, I was driven to because of my backstory. And so when you said that domestic violence is going up, I was going to say why. I can tell you from what I do. So the crisis text line is where for 2 to 4 hour shifts, I'm on a platform and people are texting into me. And these are youth who are virtually suicidal, and I have to walk them down off the ledge. And it's incredible. And there's a database that they gave us access to. And when I open it up, it basically shows the number of texts that have been exchanged between youth and this organization. And it's like 56 million. And there's like a stock ticker. It goes up and up since 10 years ago. And the categories of why people are calling in, the abuse and all this stuff, it's horrendous. So that brings me to the COVID times. Violence is increasing. Help me understand why that is. Is it because of COVID? Is it because of isolation? What's that all about?
I can actually bring in a quick statistic here before I pass it back to Ravi. But when we were doing our research for Safe Hubs, we actually found that there are crisis support services that have reported over 400% increase in calls for help. And so, Tom, just connecting to what you said, during the COVID pandemic, domestic abuse and violence was such an issue of great magnitude even before the COVID pandemic, but especially during this crisis when everyone's at home and unable to necessarily go to work or go to school. That's where we see this increase, and it's really unfortunate, and we need to do something about it together.
Yeah, thank you for saying that.
The reality of the situation is that we are home more often than before, and that's where all of the domestic violence is typically happening. And work can sometimes be an escape. School can sometimes be an escape. And these things that are moving to online platforms or are moving home is just increasing the stress and increasing the amount of, the texts that these crisis lines are getting. And it's really sad. And we wanted to do something about it.
Oh, you guys are just awesome. My heart's growing here like that. My favorite Christmas show, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, if you know it, where his heart grew 3 times. Yeah. what you said sent me on this other journey that they're saying, and even the health ministers, when they do their updates about COVID, that they're talking about keeping the schools open and the importance for children and mental health. And somebody said that, and you nailed it, that, please, to all those dysfunctional parents who go out to work every day, now they're working at home and they're home with their wives. And if they're, hurting each other and there's toxicity and violence in the home, the children are going to absorb all that. And I really believe that that's the root of a lot of challenges. It starts with good parenting, and it starts in the home. That's my experience anyway. So you guys are amazing. We talk about what, the who, and let's talk about now the how. Bring it. How can people watching this, hearing this, help you in what you're doing?
I actually can go off that. So we are always looking for people to join our platform. If you, again, go to the website, join the platform. We always want to see people on there. You guys can give suggestions. And if you want, you can even reach out to us. And if you have an idea for an article, we have a hub writer and they'd be happy to get in contact with you. We actually have a fundraiser happening next weekend that I organized. It's we're watching a documentary over Zoom or over Netflix party together. And we're going to talk about, it's called Roll Red Roll, and it's about like an abusive violence rape case in an Ohio high school. And I thought it was a very interesting documentary to choose. And we'll probably have a discussion afterwards, kind of talking about domestic violence and rape in schools and how is anything different in Canada and if there's anything we can do. And so we're raising money for that. It's by donation. So that's one way you can help us. Vedanshi, you can maybe tell some other ways.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are ways to get directly involved with the team and our initiatives. And the other way really is to, educate yourselves, because a lot of these situations arise because people don't know that it is not okay to hurt other people. And this might sound like common sense, but unfortunately, this common sense isn't common enough, So go out there, educate yourself. What does an abusive relationship look like? If you find yourself in such a situation, then you can absolutely go on our platform or even literally Google search available crisis support services in your area and get the support that you need. It is not your fault whatsoever to be put in this situation, and we believe you, and we're here for you. Really, it's just about stepping forward as a community and saying, all right, we're going to put an end to this. We're not going to tolerate this anymore, and that's that.
Yeah, thank you. As you were talking, I was going on the journey again. I was thinking about the definition. I love what you guys are doing. Everybody, just for those chiming in now, we're with Vedanshi Vala, who's the executive director and co-founder, and Ravi Nichols, part of the team that built Bolt Safety Society. We're talking about students for safety. And Vedanshi, what you just said sent me on this. I almost want to get on my soapbox and rant, because that's just what I do. I'm so emotion-based. I was thinking about the definition. I mean, what you're doing with education is huge, because when somebody says abuse, it has so many different forms. Most people don't understand what that means. What is violence in the home? And what is abuse? Well, words hurt. In fact, words are probably the most powerful thing on the planet. And I do a lot of work about helping top leaders who are from traumatic childhoods and things unravel what was implanted in their brains, their neural nets, which could be one or two words that somebody said to hurt them. Rape and physical violence. There's bullying on social media that can actually put people in a place of suicidal thoughts. It's unbelievable, but I think the education part of what you're doing is fantastic. I want to say thank you to you, because we need to educate our children. We need to educate our peers. And I think business hold a major place. I called them out about lifting the stigma of mental health in my TED Talk. Well, I think every leader has a voice and they can help lift this stigma. And why is it that we're not able to solve it? And so I'm going to point at men for a minute here. It's rather hard, because I'm a guy and I have a daughter who's 23 in university in New Brunswick. And now, every time I talk to you, I think about, she's in a small town, and is she looking over her shoulder? Well, she's got a boyfriend, so that's probably a good thing. I'm rambling here for a reason, to inspire you to talk to me. But what I'm getting at is, like, there's a lot of misunderstanding too about people who commit these, well, I'll call them alleged crimes against others. And every time you find a broken soul, you find that they're the ones who have their own broken story. They're the ones who, when they were young, were treated with violence or were neglected or raped. And there's a lot of men out there who are lost, who are angry, and taking out their hurt and walking around hurting other people, and unfortunately hurting women. It comes right back to the beginning.
Sorry. I do have to bring in a statistic here that I found. And obviously statistics only go so far as to tell us, the reality of the situation, because not all cases may be reported or documented, but UN Women reports that 1 in 3 women experience some kind of sexual violence or abuse in their lifetimes. And a lot of times that is from someone that they already know and place a lot of trust in. And for men, that's 1 in 6. And that statistic is different for other minority groups. So women of color, trans women, members of the LGBTQIA+ community. And it's horrendous that we do not have, enough respect for each other to love each other equally and to take care of each other equally. So I would say really not just men, although women might be disproportionately the targets of these crimes, but it is our common responsibility to ensure that the entirety of our community is safe.
If I could say something quickly, I go to an all-boys school, and a lot of us are shielded from the issues that we see in high schools of rape and domestic violence. Like, we aren't going to a lot of parties and stuff like that because we're all boys. We don't know a lot of girls. So I think we need to, especially, it's up to us to become informed, to be allied and stand with women. And I think if I was someone who wasn't aware of the issues back in grade 10, I'm assuming a lot of the other guys in my school aren't aware of it now. And I really want to make sure that men starting at a young age are informed and understand that they are probably being ignorant towards this issue, not by on their own, not on purpose, but because of how society kind of pushes to the side rape issues. And, it's, no one wants to hear about rape issues and domestic violence. But the reality is we have to understand, and it's up to men to, yes, again, disproportionately, it is women being raped and suffering these horrendous incidents, but it's up to men as well to understand the issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Vedanshi, for the statistics. I mean, this is more of what I was saying about education and getting people to understand, it's a global problem. It exists in every culture. It exists in every home in different ways. I'm going back to the men thing just to finish off where I was going with that. That'd be my story. I share openly on the platforms for a reason. But my abuser was my father. Now, he passed away and I made peace with him. But when I learned his backstory, that his father was a raging violent man and alcoholism was part of that, the disease. My dad brought those rules into parenting me. He didn't know any different. And so it's going back to, I always look at it, to me, it's an even deeper thing. Like, if my dad had somebody mentor and coach him and teach him how to be a parent, how to deal with his own mental health issues, because I think behind his alcoholism was a lot of stress and anger towards his dad. It goes right back to that. I parent my kids. I have a daughter, as I said, but my dad was a villain, although I love my dad. Yet I didn't bring those rules into parenting my own daughter. So how come? Well, it's because somewhere along the lines, I was around people like you and information and knowledge that taught me the difference between violence and nonviolence, the choices I have. And if I had to, believe it or not, and as an early leader in my career, I became a CEO at 31 years of age, and I had a performance review. And they said, if you want to be the man, you've got to change. And I was horrified. And I had blind spots because they said, the relationships you're having with people, your team, you're winning awards, building companies, and we really love you, but you can't gel teams together. And what I was doing is I was bringing the rules of communications, and my dad was a military commanding officer, so command and control style, into business to lead people. And so with a coach and with some education, I unraveled and learned a lot about how to actually develop character and be a better leader. And that's why I teach leaders today. This show isn't about me, but I wanted to share that because you really touched my heart here, that for all those women who are raped and abused, I always think hard about the perpetrator. And I'm a faith-based guy, and God says broken people need help. And I think about what do we need to change those men so they don't hurt and they don't do these things. And so finding the education and platforms like yours is just a huge blessing to the world. So thank you. before I get all teary-eyed and emotional here, I'm going to we'll shift back into something. I mean, as I'm talking to you, share any thoughts or anything, if you want to say, Tom, you're wrong or whatever. I'm an open book here. But
well, I'm just going to jump in and say that, Tom, thank you for sharing your story and your experiences. It takes a lot of courage to step forward and do that. And I think that what you've done is absolutely incredible, and helping other leaders, overcome their own traumatic events and experiences and find their own voice in this world. That is incredible work that you're doing. So thank you for everything that you do.
Agreed. Yeah.
Well, thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. And the only reason I can do it is because I have a safe audience to talk to. That, by the way, is a teaching moment. Find a place to go where there's safety so that you don't feel the stigma to talk about what's happening. Bolt Safety Society, everybody. That's a great place to connect to. The last thing I want to ask you is, to both of you, is in a world that we have today, and you look at your vision of what you're doing, by the time you're done with it and you have a long way to go, what do you think the world's going to look like after you've had your way with it? Just free for all.
I can start, and I think obviously it's going to be a long road. We aren't going to solve this overnight, but I do see a future where rape and domestic violence are down, and people are aware, and people are standing together against these issues. But I think it'll take some time, and I think it's going to take a lot of information and knowledge, and I think it has to be just stop being clouded. This issue can't be shielded from the eyes of children anymore. It has to be brought to their attention so they understand the seriousness of it from a young age. And I think that's the main thing we can do to make sure that this issue is eradicated as soon as we possibly can.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
And I'm going to agree with Ravi on this 100%. The irony is that Bolt Safety Society should not have to exist. We should not be seeing domestic abuse. We should not be seeing violence in our society, in our communities. But the reality is that we need to continue this work until there is such a time that, every single woman is safe. Every single person out there knows that they can go about life without looking over their shoulder, just tying back to what was discussed earlier. So that's really where we see this going. And before I end my response, I do have to say, if you are watching this and you yourself are going through domestic abuse, if you are someone that is a victim or survivor of trauma, then there is help out there. You are not alone, and we stand with you.
Thank you so much for that invitation, everybody. Teaching moment. Come back and listen to this. Go to boltsafety.org, connect, whether you need help or not, learn, and follow these amazing leaders as they're changing the world. I want to say that it's coming into the time of the year where there should be joy and happiness. I think about one thing with the work we're all doing, that there is a risk in the work we all do, that over time, they call it secondary trauma, where when you're working in an area where you're experiencing and hearing so much about these difficult topics, we're filling our emotional brains with so much difficult stuff. And so in mental health, they talk about what are the happy distractions? How do you have self-compassion to look after yourselves? Tell me about one of your happy distractions for the holiday time. Let's end on a joyous note. What drives you? What's your passion? When are you dancing and smiling and at your best? What do you do to have fun?
I can go. Actually, I'm in Whistler right now, and I'll probably be going skiing right after this. It's opening day in Whistler, and I'm a huge skiing fan. Me and my dad. I'm lucky. My dad has taught me and my little brother since we were 3. And for me, that's a lot of my friends also ski. So in the winter, that's what I'm doing almost every weekend. Obviously, since I'm in grade 12, I'm going to have to probably take a step back. I'm working now, but that's my happy place. Being out in nature, just rushing down the slopes and kind of being with my friends and family. It's just a beautiful thing for me. And it kind of intertwines my love of nature, my love of being social, and my love of just skiing all together. And it's really a really fun thing for me to do when it comes to season. So yeah.
All right. That's awesome. I love it.
I have to say, I have attempted skiing a few times in my life, and each time ended with, one time I almost dove off of a cliff, and but that's a story for another time. But that was really fun. And in terms of what I do to stay happy, I've recently gotten into making polymer clay jewelry because I found myself at home more and more, and I needed something to do with my hands just to take my mind off of things. So I've been making jewelry, and that's been really fun.
That's pretty cool. Thank you. You notice how the whole tone and energy of an interview shifts when we start talking about joy and passion. It's incredible, and I think that's something I learned going through my own story when I was taught through really psychiatry that you can choose the thoughts, and through neuroplasticity teach your brain. And even to all of those who's suffering out there, these leaders are amazing. They're there to help you. But I want to tell you, there's hope, and you have a choice. And if you learn and educate yourself to replace the thoughts you have with positive thoughts about your past, you can live an incredible life of joy and happiness. There's hope for everybody. And we're going to, through them and this organization, I'm sure, impact one person at a time and change lives. So you guys, I just love you. I love everything you're doing, your stories. I want to give up a public commitment that you know me now, so I'm going to help in any way I can. Connect people to your platform. There's a lot more I can do for you. I just don't know what it is till you tell me. There is one thing that I've been publicly talking about. The screenplay for my movie has just been finished. I wrote a book, and it was picked up by an American film company. We're creating not a docudrama, but really a memoir of my experiences, and weaved in that are topics of abuse, violence, mental health, how to shift to the other side and find joy. And I'm a producer in the film, and maybe, just maybe, I might think about, we might do some cameos of people I've met who I think authentically like me and have the same purpose. We might want to do a little cameo talking to you guys about somebody I met along my journey. So just keep that in the back of your mind. If we can get that movie out internationally one day, which we're working on, you might just have a little bit more of a lightning bolt.
That would be really cool.
All right. Well, I'm going to turn it to both of you for the last word from you on where we can get a hold of your platform information for anyone who wants to do that.
Yeah, I can start. We're on pretty much all social media, on Instagram, Bolt Safety, LinkedIn, Facebook, Bolt Safety. You can find all of the links to our social media on our website, boltsafety.org. That's kind of the main place to go. That's where you can get on the hub. And if I could just advertise our fundraiser one more time, next weekend, we have our fundraiser. You can find the link to it on our social media on Instagram. And I believe it's also on Facebook. So if you want to donate and kind of watch this movie together, and we can talk about rape and the reality of the situations in schools, it'll be a very interesting and I think very enlightening conversation. So yeah, that's where you can find us, and that's how you can interact with us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Vedanshi, anything?
Ravi pretty much got it all. Well, if you ever want to join our team, or like Ravi mentioned earlier in our conversation today, if you have something to contribute or have a personal experience or perspective to share, please do not hesitate to get into touch with our team. You can do that directly on our website and reach out to us.
That's awesome. I think I'm going to do that personally to offer myself in any way. I want to honor you with 4 leadership words. I do this on my show, and as people know, I don't script them. My show's not scripted. I write them as you talk. And because there's 2 of you, I was like getting confused in my little brain here about, okay, which one's which? So I'm going to put it all together because you're both one total leadership package. The first one is heroes. You guys are heroes. A hero is somebody who takes a journey, comes back as a guide or a shaman to help and change the world. Way to go. Leaders, no question about it. Gosh, everybody, look at the age group of this leadership team and what they've done and what the future holds. So proud of you guys. Passion, it comes out of you. And when the smiles come on your face, it lights up the interview even more. And then hope. Your hope for anybody hearing this that's living in the shadows, or maybe come out of the shadows, but going like, now what? And how can I learn to have a better life? I want to induct you guys into the Quiet Warrior Tribe now with an award. I don't think I may have told you this. Behind me on my screensaver, you'll see this image. There's a guy there, looks a lot like somebody I know. And you're each going to be getting in a cherry box sometime next year, this award. They are handcrafted and painted in the United States. Sorry, Canada. They come in a cherry box. And these are what they call challenge coins. And I came up with the idea through something I had found. Challenge coins were started in World War I, where soldiers would carry them in their pockets to create community. And you would, if you showed up without yours, you might buy drinks or buy dinner. And then they've grown around the the universe. Really, they're used by first responders, by police departments. My dad was in AA for 23 years. They have their own type of coin. This coin, the front of it has the image of our show with the words purpose, action, and life. And then the back of it is actually the hero's journey narrative illustrated by Joseph Campbell, which is really about the narrative of my show. So welcome to the Quiet Warrior Tribe. In a planet of 8 billion people, less than 50 of these go out a year. And that's, you guys know how particular I am about guests on my show. Check the ego, be authentic. And by receiving it, you commit to never giving up, telling your stories, and doing what you're doing to help others in the world. So welcome aboard.
Thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. It's an incredible honor to be given this. And I think Ravi and I can both agree that we can accept this on behalf of the entirety of the Bolt safety team, as well as all the allies and survivors and everyone that's really stepping forward to make our community safer for everyone.
100%. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And so when I get the opportunity, and these are being shipped at some point again, we'll set up a time to come out, meet, maybe take a quick photo where I can award them to you personally. And please subscribe, everybody, to the Quiet Warrior Show so we can give this episode a high rating to honor Vedanshi and Ravi's work and their entire team. And for you two, if you subscribe, you'll be able to basically hear all the other Quiet Warriors as they come on board. And just know that they're all carrying these coins in about 8 countries now around the world, connected to you two as part of that tribe. Everybody, find this show on your favorite podcast channel, give it a high rating, and live that life with purpose. Live that life with passion, like you hear from Vedanshi and Ravi, and live the life that you deserve and desire. Thank you guys for being here. We'll talk to you again.
Thank you, Tom.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca